Hello and welcome to the Source One podcast. Consider us your source for the latest procurement, supply management, and strategic sourcing insights, anytime, anywhere.
I wrapped up a pretty large spend analysis initiative recently. This project spanned a dozen international operating companies with over 24 stakeholders pitching in. By the end, we analyzed roughly 1 million transactions from dozens of disparate systems. It was a lot of work to be sure, but it provided an unparalleled view into over $1 billion in spend. Despite the heavy lift, this analysis was critical. It served as the foundation for identifying strategic sourcing projects slated to save this organization millions. In this case, the benefit far outweighed the cost, but this is not always the case. We live in an age where data and analytics reign supreme. Some organizations staff whole teams to churn out an uncountable and maybe uncontrollable number of spreadsheets, reports, and dashboards filled to the brim with data. Other organizations hire third parties, like yours truly, or implement state-of-the-art analytics packages to crunch these numbers for them. In any event, end users are left with more data points than they'd ever care to actually use in their decision-making process. I feel like I've slammed a lot of hyperbole into about a minute of speaking, so let's dial it back with a simple statement and some follow-up questions. Even in this data-forward world, organizations need to ensure that we're not wasting valuable resources on analyses that don't warrant it. So how do we tell which efforts are worth the time? We can break that down into some more specific questions to find an answer. First, what direct impact are we trying to make? This sounds like a throwaway question, but it isn't. Think about the last 10 reports that you personally handed off to your boss or your boss's boss. If I were a betting man, I'd say you could take at least one of those out of your weekly stack without the end user ever noticing. Why? Because the people consuming these reports are inundated by data. They don't have time to sift through reports generated for the sake of bureaucracy. If you could look at a report and not know the specific challenge it's trying to help solve, odds are good the answer is none. Sync up with the end user and confirm that it provides the value that you think it does. Second, how much of an impact can we expect? A spend analysis has a clear enough direct impact on a defined challenge. We need to understand where money is going, to which suppliers, and at what point in time in order to identify projects to reduce costs. That said, some spend analysis might not warrant the attention. This may seem a bit like a chicken versus egg issue since we often can't estimate value before we dig into the numbers. That said, we should have a general figure in our mind before investing that time. Here's an example. Saving 20% on office supplies is great when your staples bill is 6 figures. If we drop that to a spare few thousand every year, the value just isn't there. Third, how much buy-in can we expect? Are relevant stakeholders likely to actually pursue projects your analysis shines light on? If not, do you have the leverage, authority, or sheer charm and charisma needed to turn them? I've seen plenty of projects die in the vine because of hesitation or outright hostility on the part of key stakeholders. Investing in analytics for projects destined to fail before they start is a sucker's game. There's a decades gone by phrase that old-timers in the IT industry will recognize. Nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. The fear, uncertainty, and doubt that made it effective back then are still relevant today. Think about the last time your office's internet connection dropped off, even for a few minutes. Were you thinking about the cost savings your new provider offers? Probably not. You were probably thinking along the lines of, I really need to check my email right now. Cost savings may be good, but IT knows that reliable uptime is better and is what makes or breaks them. Finally, how deep does our dive need to be? In a lot of cases, it pays to get down into the weeds when creating either a spec list or generating an in-depth market basket. Once you've established the value of a project, it makes sense to invest in it by pulling the devil out of the details. Ending on this detailed note doesn't mean we need to start the same way, though. I pick on office supplies a lot when giving examples here, so let's go back to that 6-figure staple spend from earlier. How many pens, pencils, dry erase markers, reams of paper, and other supplies make up that figure? I mean, we're looking at potentially thousands of line items. Remember the goal of our spend analysis, identifying projects that can lead to cost savings. Do we really care about each individual line item right now? Will knowing how many black ballpoints versus blue felt tip pens make the project identification easier? No. In fact, spending too much time on these granular details now will only waste time and lead to potential lost opportunity costs. I understand the knee-jerk reaction to traverse that DIKW pyramid. I really do. It often is the right call. At the same time, there's something to be said for taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. Every action we take needs to have purpose. Don't waste time on a report today just because you ran it yesterday. Understand how your analysis fits into your organization's goals, and if you find it doesn't, cut ties so you can focus on more impactful endeavors.
You've been listening to the Source One podcast. For more strategic sourcing and procurement insights every day, visit our blog, The Strategic Sorcerer. Want to provide feedback or suggest a topic for a future episode? Let us know at prrequest@sourceoneinc.com. Thanks for listening.